Gary, it is my distinct pleasure, sir, to introduce you to Kevin and Lindsay Lacz. Kevin and Lindsay, Gary Masterdonato.
Gary,
Hey,
very
Kevin.
nice to meet you.
Hi.
Pleasure meeting both of you. And first of all, without further ado, welcome to the Mastering Your Money Show on this absolutely stellar weekend here in Oriental, North Carolina, broadcasting live from the decks of the Oriental Marina. And Kevin, you know, it's such an honor to be with you. And before I go any further, first of all, sir, let me thank you personally from the bottom of my heart and all of our listeners for your service, for your very brave, distinct service. That, above all, is incredible.
I appreciate it. You know, it's awesome. Some of the best times I've ever had were being in the military and, you know, being down there in North Carolina. You know, you're right down there by Bragg, and I've been there, spent time. And the coolest thing is how many people I got to work with in the military, from the 82nd to 101st, Marines, Air Force, Navy. It's been great. So thank you.
Well, you all work together so beautifully. And we're right across the harbor from Cherry Point Marine Branch, and, of course, down the road, Camp Lejeune, and Bragg not too far away as well. So thank you. And Lindsay, before I forget, as always, an integral part of the SEAL team and the military team, the family, the spouse, the children, all of it. It's a team effort. And many people kind of forget that part. But we keep it first most because of the fact that that's a very important role on your part as well. You know, Thank you for writing the book, The Last Punisher, and it's coming out. Actually, it came out on my birthday, July 12th. It was released officially. So I feel good vibes on this book already.
It was actually a birthday present for you, Gary.
Well, you know, that's the least you could do, Kevin, after all the other stuff you had to do. And, of course, working on the movie An American Sniper, a classic in America, and working with Clint Eastwood, one of my favorites, all-time favorite as well. And Brad Cooper, household name as well. And you did a great job prepping the people there in anticipation of making it as truism as possible. Let's get back to the book. First of all, what was your encouragement behind The Last Punisher?
You know, the encouragement started really post American Sniper, the movie. But while I was in Iraq in 2006, I did keep track of some of the things we had done. You know, I was about a month in, and I was like, this is some pretty interesting stuff. I might want to write it down so one day when I'm old and I'm losing my marbles, I can tell my grandkids a real war story without forgetting halfway through. So I wrote some of it down. It became useful when Chris had asked me to help with his book, American Sniper. And then it became useful when Chris and I and Jason Hall were working on the screenplay for American Sniper, the movie. But it wasn't until after American Sniper came out, and I saw it in the editing room, that I started to get responses like, "Thank you for your service. I'm sorry you had to go through all that." And I was kind of bristling because I wanted to join the military and I knew what I was going to get myself into. So The Last Punisher is obviously the story of 2006, Ramadi, the Punisher, SEAL Team 3, Charlie Platoon. But we wanted to have a couple themes in the book, and one of them was to kind of address the 2% of military operators that go overseas, do their job, and are able to transition back. And I felt that American Sniper, the movie, in some capacity, kind of fed into the narrative that every single veteran who serves has PTSD. And I felt that was doing a disservice to those who have PTSD and also mislabels those that don't have PTSD. So we wanted to put that line of demarcation and show the difference through the book, The Last Punisher. But that was really one of the biggest themes that we tried to get across with The Last Punisher.
Well, I know the book is already on the New York Times bestseller list, and congratulations. And we'll do our best to, of course, keep that book moving from our end here in our North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina audience, right around the whole community and around the state of North Carolina. We're all fans, of course, of military, especially in this area. And you know what impresses me, Kevin, is that we offer free financial planning fees for all military personnel, current and retired, always do, always have. And thanking everybody for their service when they come into the office. Everybody has the same reaction that you just said. They don't regret one moment of doing military all over again. And one of the best ones I heard was one gentleman said, if I had the chance to go through all the branches of military and was young enough, I'd go ahead and do every single branch. Now, I'm not sure if you want to be a SEAL. That's a tough one. But it's quite stoic. We have our own SEAL program here at the Masters Wealth Management Group. You probably don't know about that. It stands for Secure Economics at Last, SEAL.
I like it.
And we developed that just minutes ago, actually, so it'll be a new acronym for us. You had the chance to work with family. You had the chance to work with, of course, Chris, a great hero of all time, and as you were as well, working in those trenches. I was watching the movie again last night just to kind of review. And what is decompression like, Kevin, when you come back from a stay? And of course, Lindsay can answer as well. The decompression when you come home for like a long weekend or a couple of weeks after all the service and all the killing and all the noise and the fanatics going on out there. What's that like mentally?
For me, it was simply, this is the next step, all right? I'm back here. I'm back in San Diego. Road's not going to blow up. Somebody's not going to shoot me. And it was that simple. I think the decompression really was more so getting out of the military. And I was so used to a fast-paced, lifestyle where you're constantly moving. And then I slowed down and went to school. And I felt like things were moving quite slowly at that point. And the decompression really had to involve going back to what I knew in SEAL training, that my target is way down the road. I have to meet these smaller objectives before I get to the finish line. And, I don't know if you know, but I went to the University of Connecticut and then went to Wake Forest for grad school. And Lindsay went to Chapel Hill. But I felt at that program at Wake Forest, they were super accommodating for veterans. They wanted to promote veterans. And, instead of allowing me to sit and struggle and just be another college student, they helped utilize the experience that I had in the military and wanted to promote Wake Forest and, expand Wake Forest. And I felt that helped in the whole decompression, because at Wake Forest, I was going through a mental SEAL training. It felt just as hard as basic underwater demolition SEAL training. So the decompression, I think that the hardest was just getting used to, what it's like for things to progress a little more slowly on the civilian side.
I think there's also kind of a stereotype that a lot of veterans don't want to talk about things that they've seen or they've done. And you've always been pretty open about communicating your experiences. I know you've always talked to me a lot, and I think you've said that that's helpful, and good. And I think Kevin has a pretty healthy outlook on just his experiences and being willing to share things. And I've never felt that he has any kind of, that he's ever struggled with his experiences at all. And
I think also with the stereotypes that, the killing and all that stuff, I think people in The Last Punisher, I think we're trying to get across is these aren't like people. These are like fanatical terrorists who butcher people, that put bombs on women and children and send them out into crowded cities. Like, these are people who deserve what they get. So it's not as difficult. I didn't think it was as difficult, and I know a lot of people I served with didn't think it was as difficult, because these people are truly the worst of the worst.
Well, of course, and it's people protecting your own fellow service person, like Benghazi. That we interviewed the 3 operators from that on the air here back in January. And the toughest thing for them is when they were calling for help, nobody came. And that had to be a horrible feeling. And, Lindsay, you saw it firsthand, and big hugs to you as well for being so supportive to Kevin. And, of course, all the wives out there. Again, I just can't emphasize that enough. And,
Thanks.
Let me ask you one question before we close here as we zero in on the time. What is your most valuable life lesson that you think that you can pass on to the listening audience from your experience as a Navy SEAL and, as importantly, in the military? How can we show better support to our men and women in uniform and law enforcement today, especially what's going on around the U.S. and the world yesterday in East France? Horrible.
Sure. I think the best lesson I learned is, do not accept mediocrity. And I think the SEAL teams definitely pushed me to get outside my comfort zone, to push myself to the limits and realize that there's a untapped resource that I'll never attain unless I get outside my comfort zone. So, realizing you've got so much more left in the tank than your mind tells you do, I think is reassuring. When it comes to, what's happening, in Nice and Paris and Brussels and Istanbul and Bangladesh and Orlando and San Bernardino and Fort Hood, realize that we serve our country, obviously the altruistic, intentions of protecting and patriotic, and it's there, but we do it for the people to the left and right of us when we're on the front lines and we're doing that job. We need to be more inclusive rather than divisive. I see how this country's going faction-wise, and, it's easy to conquer somebody when you divide them up into groups. And I think we need to realize who the enemy is and what they're trying to do, and come together. And I think the best way to support veterans is understand what they've gone through, listen to their stories, and apply that when it comes to realizing that our biggest threat is those that try and divide, and that's terrorism.
Well, Kevin, life begins outside the comfort zone, as you so eloquently said, and we thank you so much for your participation today, and Lindsay as well for joining us on the Mastering Your Money Show, for everything you've accomplished. Of course, the Mastering Your Money Show, just another pellet in your honors. Thanks for being with us in Eastern North Carolina live on the Mastering Your Money program. Thank you, Kevin, Lindsay.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.